Welcome to the Focus and Chill podcast, where we discuss productivity tactics that work for neurodivergent individuals.
Every episode, we interview guests with lived experience of neurodiversity who also have a solid productivity and habit game, and pass the learnings on to you, our wise and benevolent audience.
We're your hosts, Jeremy and Joey.
I'm Joey, and I coach creatives to get moving on their most ambitious projects through the power of solid habits and strong focus. I'm also a perpetual student of psychology and perpetually on a quest to a one-armed chin-up.
And I'm Jeremy, a neurospicy software developer turned startup founder, building the Focus Bear app to help people with ADHD and autism thrive at work. My cool party trick is leaving parties early so I can get to sleep in time for my 2-hour-long morning routine. The Focus and Chill podcast is brought to you by Focus Bear, a focus enhancement app for ADHDers. That's adults with both combined autism and ADHD. I'm Jeremy, I'm an ADHDer myself. I'm the founder of Focus Bear and also one of the hosts of this podcast. I built Focus Bear for myself originally because I was constantly getting distracted by my phone and my laptop. I wanted a way to tame my ADHD monkey mind so I'd stop going down rabbit holes and actually get work done, but also get off my computer and my phone in the evening so I'd be able to sleep properly. It's working perfectly for me and it's helping a lot of ADHDs as well. I'd love for you to try it. It's available for Mac, Windows, iOS and Android, and it leverages most of the productivity strategies we talk about on the podcast. You can jump onto focusbear.io or just Google Focus Bear and try it out. Let me know what you think. Welcome to episode number 91 of the Focus and Chill podcast. We're thrilled to be joined by Dr. Sharon Zivkovic today. Dr. Sharon Zivkovic is the CEO of Community Capacity Builders. She is an autistic social entrepreneur and systems thinker who has used her autistic thinking skills and systemizing capabilities to develop and commercialize a number of social innovations. For this work, Sharon has received a Fresh Scientist Award and has been recognized on the map of the Complexity Sciences for Applied Complexity at the Social Entrepreneurship and Wicked Problems Division. Recently, Sharon established a Center for Autistic Social Entrepreneurship to support the creation of a neurodiversity-affirming entrepreneurial ecosystem. Welcome to the show, Sharon.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yeah, it's really good to have you here. I first met you at the Autistic Pride Day event in 2023, and it was really great to hear you talk there, and subsequently have heard you at that event and other webinars and things that you've held. So really excited to be able to speak with you today.
Great.
So we're keen to start off with your own experience of discovering that you weren't neurotypical when you first realized that you were autistic.
Yeah, I'm in my 60s, so it was a long time ago. And as a child, autism wasn't something that was even associated with girls. But I knew there was something different at school from a very early age. I couldn't take in information. It just wasn't going in. So by the end of primary, I was, looking back at report cards, it was like Sharon was away 60 days this term sort of thing. And because I wasn't doing that well, my parents had the kiosk at the local swimming centre. So I had my choice out of working in the kiosk at the swimming pool during the summer or going to school. So, as a kid, what would you choose? So by the time I got to high school, it became really difficult because it was open space. It was a new open space school back in the day. So there was no classroom. So my ability, my attention just was not there. And I was quite destructive because I didn't stay in my own area, which was supposed to be a classroom either. I also have ADHD. And for the last period of my schooling, I actually had a desk outside the principal's office. And so, that was a real sign that things weren't going well. And then my parents were encouraged to sign me out of school when I was 14. So even though not named, I always knew that there was something a bit different. I wasn't quite fitting in.
Yeah, that sounds like a really difficult environment to learn in when you were describing the open spaces approach. No wonder you struggled.
Yeah, I do still struggle. I just finished my 7th university qualification. I went back to school in my late 20s. I went back to the same high school I just about got chucked out of as the only mature age student in the school. But what I did is I stuck in a tape recorder And I used to have to come home at night and transcribe everything so that I could take it in. I just couldn't take it in. So I would drift off. There'd be a couple of sentences into saying something and I'd be off. And then I'd be trying to bring myself back. I understand now how my brain works as an autistic person. And I just have to continually rejuggle anything that's given to me to make it work for me.
Mm. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. And back in those days, there was no such thing as accommodations. You just had to come up with your own devices. My daughter remembers, because she was really little when I went back to school, and she remembers all these pieces of paper being stuck on the wall with me trying to get the information into my head. Like it just wasn't coming in because I had nothing to hook it onto.
Mm. It's an incredible amount of determination that you stuck with it, despite how hard it was.
Yeah, I'm really fortunate now because I've got so much knowledge in my head. I've seven university qualifications and life experience at my age. That's very easy for things to hook on now. So, I've got a really big data sets of knowledge bases. I understand how my brain works, and now I'm in my prime.
That's wonderful. Getting better and better as you get wiser.
Yeah, that's right.
What happened after you were asked to leave school at 14? What did you do between then and when you went back?
I tried a few small jobs, and then I got married at 17. Had my daughter at 18, separated at 19 and divorced at 20. And then 16 years on welfare. Like I was unemployed on welfare for 16 years. But during that time, I knew I'd lose my sole parent pension, I think it was called back then, when my daughter turned 16. I did my first degree. I finished my first degree. Like I went back to high school and did year 11 and 12, had to jump into year 11 and 12. Didn't realise how hard it would be. I signed up for Maths 1, 2, Physics and Chem, having not done any school whatsoever. Didn't attempt to do English. I took accounting. Did my first degree. I wanted to do science. So it's really quite strange that I'm into complexity science these days. And then I did an unemployment course because I was coming to the end of the sole parent pension. My daughter turned 16. That's when they closed you off back then. And so when I went, they said, you're not going to get a job with that. So I changed to accounting. So my first degree was accounting. And then had a couple of jobs, couple of 2-year contracts. I just couldn't do what an employer asked of me because I wanted to do my own thing. So even when I was employed, I was thinking, it'd be better, I'd be more interested if I did that. So, 2-year contracts, I think I had around 5, and then just packed it all in and self-employed ever since. So, just couldn't keep on track with an employer.
But I imagine if they had let you do the ideas that you came up with, probably would have made a better business for them.
Really successful in what, while I was working, but I was uncontrollable as an employee. I had one good boss who said to me, there's a line there, Sharon, I'm going to let you just do what you have to do, but when you reach that line, I'll pull you back in. So she was good. But I kind of took all the knowledge from that work and set up my own business.
Were the jobs related to accounting or different areas?
The first one was amazing because I got a job. I did some work because I've been unemployed for so long. I actually joined the job network stuff that was happening. It was at the time of the privatisation of CES, so I worked there for a couple of years. But then I got the opportunity for a new startup that was really high growth. And I was there at the beginning of it, setting up all their manufacturing accounting and their financial accounting systems. And that was crazy because that was new money and that was lots of fun because I had a marble desk and bar fridge and all those sorts of things. It was lots of fun. And then because I'd come from 16 years in the social housing community, they were bulldozing that community for an urban regeneration project. And I used to always complain to people that they didn't get what people needed who were on welfare. And so someone said to me, there was an economic development job on the urban regeneration project. You always complain and go do something. And so I applied. I didn't expect to leave the nice cushy job, but I just wanted the interview. And when I had the interview, they said, third generation, unemployed, what do we need to do, sort of stuff. What would you do? And I said, I'd teach people how to dream again. And I got the job. I was really surprised. So I took it. So my 3 contracts were urban regeneration contracts, working with citizens on starting up enterprises. And, this was back in the 90s, like the age of the 90s. It was a long time ago. And so it was great work, but I got into lots of strife because I think I was more aligned with the so-called disadvantaged citizens because they were my people and stuff than I was the employers.
Yeah, understandably so.
Yeah.
And when you then started your own businesses, were they in that space as well?
Yeah, so I was part of a community capacity building team in the government. And when I started Community Capacity Builders, because I was doing things quite differently with regards to supporting citizens and I was starting up enterprises, I actually took out in 2001 the Enterprising Woman of the Year award for this work in communities. And so because of that, I was doing a lot of public speaking around Australia because social entrepreneurship came into the policy in Australia through the Welfare Reform Final Report. And so they had a focus on social entrepreneurship as a way of building community capacity. And then the Commonwealth, at a state level, the Commonwealth State Housing Agreements were aligned to those welfare reform outcomes. So it was a big time for community capacity building. So I left and started up Community Capacity Builders, which was focusing on that kind of work on the outside and then being able to develop programs that I could actually really take off in the innovation space with it. And it was funny because I did get into a lot of trouble as an employee for not doing as I was told and not getting and all that sort of stuff. The University of Adelaide came in to try to save me at the time, and they actually met with my director and other people in the government department to see if I could be based at the university. They wanted to set up an incubator for people that didn't colour in between the lines sort of stuff and have a few government employees in there to innovate. But the government had a bar of it. They want to be nice and close, selective. So I was getting into all sorts of strife. It was, lots of learning, like an amazing amount of learning.
At what point did you get an official diagnosis?
Not until I was 61. And I've been part of that. My sister didn't get her diagnosis till 64. My daughter was not keen because the thing is she's so anti-labels. But I think getting support from NDIS, you've only got up to 65 sort of stuff. So that was the reason for it, because as you're aging, there's a whole lot of other issues that come up as an autistic person. And I just didn't know what was going to be coming as I got older. So I wanted to get into that system before I missed that 65 cutoff.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what changes came out of that diagnosis process?
I went for a team assessment because I wanted, and it made it easier to just get NDIS straight away because I had a few people, checking in there. And then I had my ADHD assessment afterwards as well. So I had quite a bit. One of the comments from one of the psychologists was that I had the perfect life for an autistic person. And that really hit home to me because I have got the perfect life. I've got a really good life. I've paid off my house. I'm off the grid, everything's, and I haven't had to engage in the world for a long time where I've been told I have to do something, so I've had total freedom. I can completely control my work life. And so, so that was an eye-opener to me, and that's kind of put me on the track with the need to actually assist other people to have that perfect life for an autistic person as well. I think the challenges I faced, well, not so much challenges, the surprise for me, because all of a sudden I got this label, a couple of weird things happening with people saying that, they employed people like me. That was really like crazy out of my own network, you know what I mean? Being the social enterprise, I'm like, what the hell? I've been self-employed these years, and you're saying I need assistance in my employment? That was crazy. I think other people's reactions. I remember saying to somebody that I just had an autism diagnosis, and they burst into tears. I was thinking, like, it was like I died, you know? So other people's reactions was crazy. What else did I find really bizarre? I think what I found really hard was how people only saw the negative of it. You know what I mean? I'd been so successful. I'd won awards, you know, did all this university study, and all of a sudden it was like there was this negative label over me. And I could see lots of strengths with it. And it just blew me away that everyone I was interacting with, and especially with the NDIS and local area coordinator and all that sort of stuff, they were telling me what my needs were that I didn't see I needed, weren't needs. I didn't want to. Okay, I don't want to participate. You know what I mean? She was saying, like, you go with a support worker and have coffee. And I don't, why are you sitting at a coffee shop for? Like, what the hell? No, that sort of stuff. I've got work to get on with, you know, like there was this normal life, and you were supposed to have support to have this normal life. And I didn't want that life. I didn't want to do those things. So I found all of that totally bizarre.
Sounds a little bit, patronizing in a way.
Yeah, and so there's a lot of people working in that disability space that don't understand disability at all. And so I found it really hard because it came as such a surprise. I wasn't ready to self-advocate for myself. Just straight away, I signed up, as I do in these sorts of situations. I signed up for a Master of Autism. So I thought, let's go find out what people think this is. And that was quite disastrous too, because, you know, it was so deficit based. Like what I was being told I was incapable of doing things which I've been doing for years, sort of stuff. So I think that's been my biggest surprise has been, and I feel for the kids to be told from an early age that you've got these limitations is horrendous.
It's life that's been going around for Down syndrome, that you told me that I can't do it, so I didn't try. But actually, a lot of things are possible.
Yeah. Well, that was it. Even like when I wanted to do science, and they said, "Oh no, you're going to need a couple of degrees, and you won't get a job." And now I'm a self-taught complexity scientist, and I've got 7 degrees, so I could have done a couple. I could have done all I could do a couple. Like people just putting limitations on you, and as soon as you say you've got a disability, then the big limitations start piling on.
Yeah. Are there any challenges that, like some of them, it sounds like people are perceiving challenges that don't exist, that you were talking about as you get older, that there might be some real challenges that come?
Yeah. I mean, like I love the ADHD meds. Like it was just like, whoa, like straight away, like it was a different world, you know. First tablet, it was like, oh my God. I didn't realize that that I had a gap in my thinking before I do things. So like opening fridge door, we're going to open the fridge door now, sort of stuff. And there was like this gap, everything, pressing a button on the coffee machine, that always, all my life, there'd been a gap between wanting to do something and my body actually doing it. And first ADHD med was gone. There was no gap anymore. So that was just amazing. But the problem with that is that as you get older, that high blood pressure is an automatic thing.
Yeah.
The increased heart rate. So in your 60s, you want to increase heart rate, like you want a hole in the head. You know what I mean? It's like, don't do anything that affects the heart. And also, there was an impact on my mobility in my, you know, what the leg stiffness, which as you get older, you don't want that either. So I made the decision that I wasn't going to play, and you know, I'll have to do this natural because of the health implications. Because I never had any kind of therapies as a kid, as I've got older, some of that muscle toning issues and balance issues are kind of a little bit more scary because of the fact of falls as you get older is not a good thing either. And so now I have weekly physio. When I first started going to the physio, he said, the only thing that's holding you up is your shoes. So, it's like I walk around like this sort of stuff, like it's really like the whole balance thing. Yeah, so just loads of things like that. So I'm spending a lot more time these days on me, getting some of the balance. And I guess part of that gap between, opening up the fridge door and be thinking, I want to open up the fridge door. I have got issues with messages from brain to body parts. And as you get older, the consequences of having a fall can be a lot more horrendous. So I need to sort all that sort of stuff out.
It's great you're getting support to go through that.
Yeah. And I guess that was it. I knew that there was some issues because I don't feel pain either. So it's not until something stops working that I know that anything's wrong, that sort of stuff. As you get older, there's more things go wrong. And because I've got so low body awareness, things get really wrong before I notice they're wrong. My medical needs are a lot higher than the average person. And it's just so expensive because we usually have to have a lot of scans because it's the only way we know something's wrong because of the lack of body awareness. This arm is not working. I don't know why. Obviously, this arm is not working because I don't have the pain sensations of stuff. We don't.
So not at all, or just if it's really, really bad?
It's just things stop working, but I don't get the sensation. I don't get the build-up of the pain stuff. I'd probably take, 2 Panadol a year, and that would be for like a headachy sort of stuff. But I don't get pain. I don't get loneliness. I've never had the feeling of loneliness. Never in my life do I know what loneliness is, which is quite cool for an autistic person because I can just shut myself off from the world and I don't mind at all. I loved COVID.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
Sharon, you were mentioning before about capacity builders. Could you tell us a little bit more about some of the social innovations that you're working on in those programs?
Yes. So initially it was all of what I was taken out of the community capacity building programs, jobs that I had and, leadership programs, etc. But these days I've got a methodology of how I innovate. I think that's part of needing a big data set to do that innovation, to do the associations and systemizing. For this year, I've written 2 journal articles and a book chapter that's being published. I've got this knowledge base in these areas now that I'm comfortable with, and that's really how I start the process. The book chapter's on autistic social entrepreneurship and autistic systems thinking. And then I have a journal article on what's required to support autistic social entrepreneurs. When I'm talking about autistic social entrepreneurs, I'm coming from a particular frame, really, which is about autistic innovators and about autistic systemizers. So it's not about an autistic person starting a coffee business or something like this. I'm really playing at the social innovation end of autistic social entrepreneurship and how autistic cognition can assist with that area. So I first off, like turning that body of knowledge into product. I've been playing at and developing programs for the entrepreneurial the social enterprise ecosystem and disability services to support autistic innovators and systemizers. I'm starting to realise that because I've started up this Centre for Autistic Social Entrepreneurship, and because I'm coming in and talking about autistic social entrepreneurship, people can get the idea that I'm talking about autistic businesses with a social aim, where I'm actually talking about social innovation, that innovation form of entrepreneurship, the more scholarly definition of what an entrepreneur is as an innovator and a risk taker and that sort of area. So I'm starting to think that I'm actually going to, which I didn't want to do, I'm actually going to have to develop a program for autistic people to explain the range of entrepreneurship and how autistic thinking and systemizing can actually assist people to be innovative. So there's now 3 programs in that bundle that I'm working on. The big 10,000 journal article that's going to be published in January is a complexity science article. I had another enterprise which commercialized a framework that I'd developed for system transitions using complexity science, and I'd developed a lab process to bring communities together to address wicked problems, and had a few really successful labs around Australia that were using this process and using the software. Then the Paul Ramsay Foundation invited us to put in a proposal to do a lab process in a place for supporting autistic social entrepreneurship. When I started scoping up what that would look like, I realised that the projects we'd all worked on were all social ecological problems. And something like autistic social entrepreneurship is a wicked human services problem. And so it was the realisation that there was this difference between how you needed to transition to social ecological problems compared to wicked human services problems. For this last year or so, I've been theorising that, and it's just going into a system dynamics journal in January. So now that I've done that, I'm going to update the complexity science course, the complex systems leadership course that I developed a few years ago. So they're kind of like, this year is all bit about writing and theorising, and next year is all about putting the products out.
Yeah. Well, one thing that seems to be coming up quite a lot in the explanation of your work is talking about complexity science and wicked problems. Could you perhaps give us like a quick elevator pitch for the people that complexity science and wicked problems are new concepts for them?
Yeah, not a problem. So when we address problems, especially in the social entrepreneurship and social enterprise space, we use what's called logic models and theory of change. If I do this and this and this is going to address that problem. But wicked problems are things like climate change, poverty, where you can't develop an initiative that's going to address it. And that's because these problems, even though they're really diverse, like poverty to climate change, it's quite diverse problems. They've got the same characteristics, and that is that there's lots of underpinning causal factors that's causing those problems. All those underpinning causal factors interrelated. Because there's so many underpinning causal factors, different folk have a different understanding of what's the reason for the problem. So you've got all of these people coming together. You need to get all these people coming together to do their bits. And it's got to come together coherently, or, from what I've been working on is alignment more for wicked human services problems. They're not easy to address. You can't just develop an initiative and address them. Also, if you come up with an initiative that addresses a few of the underpinning causal factors, that could have, because of all of the interconnections, that can have implications for other parts of the problem. So, the focus is really about developing, and this is where complexity science comes in, because there's this law called Ashby's law that how you address a problem has got to have the same level of complexity as the problem itself. And so a complexity science approach takes into account all of that complexity of the problem. And so traditionally, the approach I've taken has been about system transitions and using complexity science to guide these system transitions to transition systems of initiatives to a new system state. But with wicked human services problems, it's different, because you not only have the transition of the system of all the initiatives where you're trying to make things work better for a place, but you've also got integrated service delivery happening there at the same time. Integrated service delivery is a complicated problem because you're back to that cause and effect logic. We need to provide so many widgets so that this person can stand up or whatever. At the same time, you've got to transition the system to a new system state. There's a lot more power and influence because you've got, because of the fact of lived experience is starting to become recognise that, wow, we need lived experience to address these kind of complex problems. You've got people with lived experience, You've got human service workers who may not think the lived experience point of view is that important. You've got the social enterprise sector, who's 20 odd percent of their enterprises is in that human services type field on average. And they have not been the best at valuing lived experience. It's more about having beneficiaries and doing things to people, sort of stuff. And so there's a whole lot of different complexities compared to doing something like food security or climate change. And that's really what the paper that's been published in January is about.
It sounds really important, the work that you're doing, and I'm looking forward to seeing the programs that you come up with next year.
I mean, the hassle is I'm in my 60s, and I don't really want that much to do with people because I don't get lonely. So my intent was to just sit back and put programs online. If people want to look at them, look at them. But yeah, I think I'm probably going to have to partner with a few younger folk to actually get things out there because they are important. But I'm at a stage in my life where, how much do I really want to be bothered? I mean, this is the hassle when you pay off your house and everything. Apologies for being a baby boomer. I feel for all you folk. But the reality is, know what I mean? I don't need it. And I've got to concentrate more on me these days. But I have got into a habit of Friday afternoons now. I finish at lunchtime and I go to the beach and I do a 4-kilometre walk up and down the beach on a Friday afternoon sort of stuff. So, I'm starting to spend more time on me. And so I've got this pull of, this is really important work that needs to get out there, but I want me time.
What else do you like to do in your me time?
Gardening, and it's not a flower gardening. If it's not edible, I don't want to know about it. Not about sort of stuff. And so my poor neighbours, right now the whole front garden was just covered in tomatoes. There's tomatoes everywhere. So wherever it wants to grow is where it goes. And so, there is no front garden looks pretty. There's veggies all through. And I've been thinking about it, I think because I don't have to go to the shops. You know what I mean? I can, what's for tea tonight? So we just go around the garden and see what's there sort of stuff. So it just stops all that having to do the fruit and veg shopping sort of stuff, which has to be fresh. I don't like shops. Yeah, as I said, COVID was great. Even though I live on my own, I've got a huge freezer. And because the attention span is not good, I've caught the house on fire and I've gassed myself a couple of times, and you know what I mean? The cooking thing is dangerous. So I cook in batches so that I keep myself there for the whole process. So I'll cook 12 meals at once sort of thing. And so I've got a huge freezer. And so the veggies and, how I cook and, it's all seasonal sort of stuff. Whatever's in the garden, and that's what we're cooking. And I'm a vegetarian. I don't mind a bit of chicken and a bit of fish, but mainly vegetarian. And so, yeah, the garden is huge. Spend a few hours a day on the garden.
It's wonderful. When you said you were off-grid, I was thinking just electricity, but it sounds like it's everything. But grid supply.
Yeah, I mean, the only other person I know who has got this kind of issue that I've got is Anna Gatsby, who's spoken about it. But I have a problem with floors with no tiles in, with no lines in them, so they move on me sort of stuff. So shiny floors, so going into shopping centres. I remember a couple of Christmases ago, I really wanted a new Christmas tree because I left a small one. And so I was in the city. I thought, I'll handle this okay. You know what I mean? Going around the shops. This is all cool. And I thought, I'm just going to nip into Myers to go and see this Christmas tree. And when I got there, the floor started moving. I have this problem with the floor starting moving. I lose the spatial with it. I've got an image issue. I do have aphantasia, so I don't do well with images. So the floor started moving and I'm kind of like holding on to the counter sort of thing. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I hope I don't have to get up on all fours and crawl out of this in the middle of the Christmas decoration shopping at Christmas time. So yeah, so being out and at airports, I walk around with my my eyes up at the ceiling sort of stuff because, the floors move. And I heard Anna Gatsby say she doesn't like shiny concrete floors. And I thought, you've got it too, sort of stuff. Home is good for me. Why put myself out there?
Definitely. And Sharon, you were mentioning giving yourself an early mark on a Friday so you could go for a long walk on the beach. Can you tell us a little bit more about how you optimize your productivity in order to give yourself an early mark?
My productivity is really, I'm very structured. So as soon as I get out of bed, I usually don't even make coffee. Like there's no tea cleaning, nothing happens. I just come straight into the office. I make it out of bed to the office, and I'm probably doing a couple of hours of work before even coffee happens. So the getting dressed happens slowly through the day. I'm better than I used to be. I went years without having a break at all and just working 12-hour days, 7 days a week. But these days I do get up, but the first couple of hours I'm straight in because that's my most productive time, is that first thing in the morning. So I work to, whatever is the most productive for me, which is first thing in the morning. And then I'll work up till 7 o'clock for the news. It's so routine. It's just like everyone knows exactly what I'm doing. But these days I'm up and about during the day, where before I used to just sit in the chair in front of the computer. But now I'll get up and water the garden, put a load of washing on, do various things during the daytime because it's not good. I've worked out the hard way that it's not good to sit periods of time as you get older. It's taken a long time to get like the muscle tone in that back from not looking after myself. So, but productive in the morning, keeping to a routine. I've got an electronic diary for the last few years, which is great. But that's about it with regards to keeping on track for me. Because I can control my work, I only like working on one thing at a time. So this year has been writing. And I can't start a new body of work until I've finished that project. I can't have two things running at the same time. I don't need a lot of assistance with being able to manage things because I've just worked to what my natural brain function is, which is very monotropic. Like, this is it. We do this for a few months and that's finished. And now we do this is the next big hunk of work. But if people start giving me bits and pieces, it just screws my whole life up.
I like the idea of taking the breaks throughout the day to go water the veggie garden. So we're going to take a quick break now.
Hi there, Focus and Chillers. Are you ready to supercharge your knowledge in the realms of creativity, tech, and psychology? Come check out my fortnightly newsletter. In each edition, you'll get quick wins and actionable takeaways that you can put into practice right away. If this sounds like you, I'd love to have you as a reader. Subscribe for your fortnightly dose of insights. The link is in the show notes. And now, let's get back to the show.
And so we're back. We've watered the veggies. We've watered ourselves as well. And now we're ready to ask Sharon about how her sleep is and how she switches off at night. Sharon, can you tell us a bit about your evening routine?
I am a night owl, so I'm up to very, very late. The poor fella next door thought that I was on shift work like he was because he gets up in the early hours. And I said to him, no, I'm not getting up then. I'm still awake. But that's not because I can't sleep. As soon as my head hits the pillow, within 30 seconds, I'm out. So I've got no issues with sleeping. I've got into a habit at night time of doing a lot of therapy exercises as I watch a movie. So it's 7 to 7:30 is news. Then heat up the dinner because we've got all the veggies and everything in the freezer and all the meals are there. So heat up the dinner, watching a movie. But during that time, I'm doing a lot of the therapy exercises because, I've got exercise physiologists and I've got physio, and also I did 2 months of pulmonary rehab this year because I've got a lung condition as well. So I've got lots of therapy exercises, which I do every night because I know how much improvement that I get from that sort of thing. So, I'm quite good. And one of the benefits of being autistic is once you get in a routine, it's there. So it's kind of like, move me out of that routine and, it's really hard. So, that's my evening.
Sounds like a very nourishing and wholesome routine, looking after the body and the nutrition, staying up to date with current affairs.
The only time that I come out of my routine is when my grandson stays over. And then that involves sitting on the couch, eating junk food and watching a whole lot of trashy movies.
So people would like to connect with you without hassling you, getting in your way. That you mentioned that you might want some partners to help roll out the programs next year. Where could people find you online to connect with you?
LinkedIn would probably be the best. That's my one and only social media these days. Twitter's kind of left it. We don't do Twitter anymore for obvious reasons. So yeah, LinkedIn is the easiest way to get hold of me. Still working out what that will look like. I need to get the programs developed first. I realise people do like to talk to each other when they're undertaking programs. So I think it's going to be a case of packaging up the programs with a facilitator's guide so that people can facilitate, and then have some facilitators who can deliver the work, which will be all available online.
And Sharon, it's been wonderful having you on. Do you have any final words or ask for our audience?
I would say that my focus with regards to neurodiversity is in the cognition space. I've found that to be so helpful for myself to work out how my cognition is different to neurotypicals and how helpful that is with regards to not only daily life, but innovating and systemizing, etc. There's a whole lot of strengths with that. But also, I guess my final bit that I'd like to get across is that neurodiversity is a movement. It's a movement to have our cognition recognised as valid and to have systems that support our way of thinking and our way of operating in the world. And there's a multi-billion-dollar a year deficit industry around autism. I guess it's a call to action, really, that we've got to stand up, we've got to take control over the programs and the processes that autistic people are engaged with so that they are neurodiversity affirming. So I guess that's my call for that. Join the movement is my final call to action.
Wonderful. And we'll wrap the show with that.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Focus and Chill podcast. To listen to other episodes, jump onto podcast.focusbear.io. If you'd like to be a guest on the show or you know someone who'd be a good fit, email us at team@focusbear.io. Otherwise, stay focused, stay chilled, and peace out.